here. Today we are going to see session which is called Power BI Explorer Showcase. We have Mathias Thierbach here with us. Mathias is a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. He's director at PBI Tools Ltd. And is a technical contributor at Tabular Tools. He will later explain more if he so desires what he does. And if I understand correctly, both PBI Tools and Tabular Tools are companies that are focused on building technical tools for developer for Power BI reporting experience, the analysis services reporting experience, tabular reporting experience, and so on, development experience, sorry. But again, I will leave Mathias to explain better what he does later. Let me change the slide. Who we are, you probably already know us, Italian Power BI user group. We are the main Italian community focused on business intelligence topics and technologies. And of course, we have a strong focus on Power BI as the name of the community suggests. We organize meetings every 2 weeks, usually on average, with guests that are both from the Italian and the international community. So if you want to follow our initiatives, please subscribe to any of our social channels. You can find us on all the main platforms, LinkedIn, Telegram, where we have both a group chat and a channel to announce our events. Meetup, if you want to use Meetup, we also set up the events there. And we have our user group also in the Fabric communities. I will share later, if somebody else can do it, I will share later the link to our social channels so that if you want, you can join. If there is anyone from the international audience, yes, we are an Italian community, so the Telegram chat is in Italian, but if you want to follow us in case we do events with people from the international community, and we do them quite often, feel free to join. Our next events, so we also have a couple of English language events, so it's good if there's anyone, again, from the international community. The first one will be in a week. We have decided, well, actually, I have decided to organize a roundtable on Power BI, CI/CD, and Git integration. So we are going to meet up in the community to discuss our first experiences and findings on these new features that we have for Power BI. But I will, let's say, guide with first a presentation of what I did in the company that I worked for, where I implemented the new pipelines. So everyone that has had any experience is invited to join and share with the community. And the people that didn't have any experience, they are anyway invited to join, and maybe we hope that it can be useful for them. On January, so in 2024, we will start again our activities with a webinar conducted by Nicola Ilic, who is another Microsoft MVP, and will guide us through the main features and capabilities of Microsoft Fabric. So if you aren't up to date with the new features that are available in that regard, please join this session. And then we also have another session in our pipeline. The date needs to be confirmed. It's probably going to be around February, but there might be changes because maybe the schedule from here to February might change. But we have contacted Gerhard Bruchel, who will showcase the VS Code extension he has built to manage Power BI APIs from Visual Studio Code. It's a very interesting tool. I will post an article in the chat later after I'm done with this presentation. So we invited him to explain the capabilities and so on. As always, our last comment is that the community is open for everyone. So you are free to join if you want to try a live session, maybe for the first time, or if you want to test a session before presenting it to an event, or you have a topic that you want to discuss in the roundtable or any other case. You're also invited to join if you want to help us create materials on Power BI and related technologies that we can share with the community's channels, as we did in the past, like video pills and demos, or if you want to help us organize events, the help is always needed. If there are any other questions, obviously you can contact us on any of our social channels, and we will reply, especially in the Telegram group chat, where we have vibrant discussions going on every day now. So having said that, I will stop the sharing, and I will leave the stage to Mathias.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. I hope you can hear me, and thanks very much for the invitation. Let me just start with my screen share. If you could just confirm you can see it, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. And good evening to everyone in Italy, or wherever you're joining from. By the way, Alessandro, the roundtable discussion on CI/CD next week sounds super interesting. If I can make it, I will join, because that's the topic very, very dear to my heart.
Actually, we wanted to do it in Italian.
Oh, this is okay. All right.
Because actually, I don't think that there are presentations in Italian on this topic. So this is the reason why it has some value for our community. But maybe we can think about doing another one if you want to join.
Sounds great.
We would be very happy.
Yeah, me too. All right, good. At least we've got that clarified. So let's talk PBI Explorer. Just up front, this is not a sales call. PBI Explorer is a free community tool, right? Everything I'm showing today is available to anyone interested, completely free. And I'll tell you, where to get the bits. But let me just do some quick introductions before I talk PBI Explorer. Obviously, Alessandro already mentioned very kindly, I'm Mathias Thierbach, based in London. You may know me from PBI Tools, which is yet another free community tool that I've developed for quite a few years now. This is where my CI/CD interest comes from. And earlier this year, I started contributing to Tabular Tools. And one of our new products is PBI Explorer, which we're talking about today. If you want to get in touch or follow me, you've got the links on this slide. And also, by the way, I'm more than happy to take questions at any point, as long as obviously they're related to what we're talking about. So we don't have to wait till the end. If anything comes up, just feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, so just to set the stage a little bit, PBI Explorer is again a free community tool which targets Power BI report developers. So let me just clarify what that means. A report in this context means everything that relates to the visual side of Power BI. So as you probably know, we already have tools like Tabular Editor, which are fantastic when it comes to model development. And we've thought, and we've seen that there is rarely any equivalent for people on the visual side, people creating pages, visuals, bookmarks, and so on and so forth. And just thinking about if you are someone who's involved on Power BI report development, I've put a few bullet points down here in terms of what you might be interested in from a collaboration and professional point of view. So, for instance, be able to get a nice, neat inventory of everything that's in your PBIX or PBIP project in terms of how many pages are there, what they're named, which visuals are on which page, which filters are used, etc., etc. And also understanding how this particular report actually uses your data model and which elements from your data model are being used and where they're being used. And also, most importantly, the ability to track changes between different versions of a report. Or if let's say you are in a QA role and your job is to sign off new releases, how do you actually test that nothing was changed that was unintended, right? So those are, from my point of view, very obvious requirements and questions, but also ones where there hasn't been any good tooling whatsoever. Clearly, Power BI Desktop does not help you with any of those questions. And so that's pretty much what PBI Explorer is designed to help you with. So we're hoping that ultimately it will take up a status similar to what Tabular Editor has for data modeling nowadays. And so just thinking about how we can actually make that possible. What we've had with data models for quite a long time is full access to the underlying definitions and the payload and the JSON formats that define our data model. And it turns out that as far as reports are concerned, we've had a massive update earlier in 2023, which is the Power BI developer mode. And that one basically allows us, once this feature is enabled, because it's currently in public preview, that allows us to basically extract what used to be a single binary PBIX file into a folder structure that has readable contents and specifically also has a JSON definition of what's in our report. If you extract or save one of your projects as a PBIP, you're going to get a output similar to what you can see on the screen here. There's a subfolder for everything related to your model or data set, and another subfolder related to your report. I created this slide, but really just for reference. I'm not going to go through this in too much detail right now, but this is to explain, the various files that are in those folders. If you go to the link shown at the top, you're going to see Microsoft's documentation for this. And if I hop into Power BI Desktop at this point, just for a quick demo. So I've got one example report here. Just 3 pages. It's got an embedded data model as well, doing some sales. We're going to use this report, for all subsequent demos today. So just wanted to show how you can actually get from here to the PBIP format. If you go to Save As and then Browse. And I'm going to create a subfolder. Let's call this PBIP. The crucial thing is down here. So you want to go and change the Save As type, switch that to PBIP. Remember what I said before, that has to be enabled as a preview feature in Power BI Desktop. And once you've done that and save, you're gonna get an output that is, there we go, pretty similar to what I showed you earlier. If I open this one in VS Code, like so, there we go. Let me just make it a little bigger so everyone can see it well. And go in here, we can actually see that the report folder happens to contain a report.json file, and that one has a lot of stuff in it. In fact, it's actually somehow problematic because when you look here, we have a lot of lines which happen to contain like here, for instance, this one has 2,500 characters. So this one is not readable whatsoever. And in fact, it's very poorly formatted, and it's a step in the right direction as far as Microsoft is concerned, but it's definitely not in a state where we can actually get any insights from it. So just going back to my slides for 1 second. This particular limitation is well understood, and there is a commitment from Microsoft. This is a screenshot from one of their websites, that a more source control friendly format will come as far as reports are concerned, to basically overcome those limitations. But nonetheless, we don't know yet when that will be and what it will look like. And ultimately, it will still be sort of a lot of code that you have to understand and make sense of. In order to address that, we have, and obviously that's what I want to talk about today, PBI Explorer, which allows us to basically interpret those JSON definitions and that kind of code and give you a very neat and user-friendly way of navigating and exploring your report. So if I go to the application, which there we go. Right, so this is PBI Explorer. I've already launched it. Again, you're going to be able to, or you can, if you go to pbiexplorer.com, you can just scroll to the bottom of the page and download it there. It doesn't require any installation. It's just a file you can extract, and you can launch the application right from there. So let me open the exact same report we were just looking at in desktop in here. So this is sales of PBIX. And what we see to begin with is an overview, which gives us a little summary of how many pages there are, visual types, and so on and so forth. So just a little starting point in order to get started here. And we can also see on the right-hand side, we've got this Report Explorer, which basically has a tree view where we have the report at the top, and then the various pages and the respective visuals underneath. So this already gives us a much more succinct and straightforward view of what's in our report and how everything fits together, and gives us a view of that in a much more developer-friendly way, as opposed to having to navigate through what you can see in desktop. So we've got that, and just staying in the Report Explorer, I can actually click through here, and you can see my main window now changes and actually shows a wireframe view of the respective page we're looking at. So basically, since we're only looking at metadata here, we won't have access at this point to actually know, what specific visuals will render as, but we can create this wireframe view that shows all visuals on the page with their respective sizes and positions. And if you then look at this side by side with the report, I'm just going to make this a little smaller, you can actually see how the various things relate to each other. So for instance, this one here is the same as that one. And as you can tell, I can even navigate around this wireframe, and each respective visual will be selected. So we've got that. We can see over here what visual type it is. We also have the internal ID. If you follow good practices and actually set a title for your visuals, the title will be shown instead. As you can see, this particular report doesn't have any of those, but this is quite similar to the selection view in Power BI Desktop. And then the next thing, which is very unique and which makes this much more sort of developer focused and similar to Tabular Editor, is the property grid down here. So for every single element in our report, for each page, for each visual, we actually have a rich object model that is fully exposed with all the underlying properties that actually make up the report definition. As you can see, I can just navigate through in order to see the various properties pop up here. So let's take a look at one example. This one, for instance, so that's a card visual, as we can see. We can also see that it happens to have a data binding. So basically, this one tells us that the card visual is bound to the sales amount measure. And it happens to have a filter, which we can see in terms of the filter definition. So basically, there's an equals filter on a field called smart cork, and we're basically filtering on one particular label. By the way, this feature is brand new. That's something which we've only just completed, and it will be available in the next update that will probably come tomorrow. So what I'm showing you right now is currently not in a public domain, but as you can see, it's ready, and we will push it out for everyone as soon as possible. So this feature, this release basically represents all filter definitions in a very readable and user-friendly way. So we've got that. I can see there's a question here. Would it be a good time to have a look at that?
Yeah, sure.
Can we make the wireframe window bigger in PBI Explorer? Well, actually, look. So if you go in here and you scroll with your mouse wheel, you can make it as big as you like. So yes, absolutely. By default, it fills the available space so that you can see the full size without having to scroll. And since this one said another question, was there one at the top? A question about icons.
So seems
yes.
like Victor is unable to see the icons.
Yes, it may well be that we had some sort of regression in the latest release here. Very good. You are absolutely right. Basically, I didn't even notice that. Thanks so much. So basically, the Report Explorer is meant to actually show the official Power BI desktop icon for each particular visual type, which normally makes this sort of much more interesting to look at. So yes, thanks very much. Hopefully we can get that fixed before pushing out the next release. So again, right, this is this is a community tool which we as Tabular Tools, and I'll talk who is behind Tabular Tools shortly, made a commitment to developing, and we've had 5 public releases already. The 6th one is basically ready. That's the one I'm currently showing. So we are very keen to provide new features and to ultimately make this a really useful community external tool. We also depend a lot on getting feedback in terms of is something broken, so that was really useful right now, or are there particular reports or examples that don't work for some reason. As you can imagine, probably, the whole universe of PBIX reports is huge, and there are just so many things that we haven't seen yet. And so if you find a bug or a problem and you reach out, then it's hugely appreciated. All right. Let me come back here. I already mentioned this measure reference, for instance. So there is another really cool feature over here, the Data Model Explorer. So that one, similar to the Report Explorer, actually shows us a partial view of our data model. And this is really important to understand. We had a lot of misunderstanding previously from first-time users. This is not meant to give us our full data model. It's only giving us the data model or the portion of the data model that's actually used in the report. So looking at this calendar table here, where only 5 columns are shown, you can assume that the actual data model that the report is bound to probably has a lot more than 5 columns here. But only those 5 happen to be referenced anywhere in the report. And so that's why we see that. We can also assume that the data model presumably has additional tables, but they won't show here unless they're being referenced. So that's the purpose here, right? The scope and the focus is always the report, not the data model. And then there's an additional really cool feature, which is this one. You can enable it by basically ticking the track usage button or checkbox. And that one in turn allows you to select any item from your data model, for instance, the sales amount measure, and you'll then see, first of all, you'll get a list view down here, precisely where this particular measure happens to be used. And here, using the blue coloring, we can actually see visually that we have one visual on the sales geo page, and we've got 1, 2, 3 visuals on the sales page referencing that particular measure. So very cool indeed, particularly if you've got more complex reports, or if you sort of inherit a report that you didn't build yourself. This hopefully could be very useful in terms of determining how everything actually fits together. Are there any new questions at this point?
Yes, Victor said that he was messing around with PBI Explorer and so that it shows the bookmark linked to a button action, but the bookmark name appears still as a text code and not the name as for, I guess, the visuals if you have a title. Is it something that you guys can sort out? I guess in next releases probably.
Right. So I've got a slide towards the end where I'm going to show our next few milestones. Support for bookmarks is one of our next really big investment areas. So give us till early January to actually get substantial new features around understanding and navigating through bookmarks. They are an extremely powerful Power BI feature, but they are also very complex in terms of the underlying JSON and in terms of the various different ways how bookmarks can be used. So this is actually our current focus this month. As far as the particular question regarding the action button is concerned, maybe we can take that offline. Don't want to sort of because I'd like to understand the question a bit better, but it would be useful to have an example here. All right, if that's okay for now, let me just continue here. So we've seen Report Explorer, we've seen Data Model Explorer. There's one other feature that I want to point out because it's, here we go, because it is where PBI Explorer adds immediate value, which is around interactions. So interactions are basically virtual links between visuals, which allow you to say this visual should filter or cross-highlight or not filter other visuals. It's probably something you're familiar with because that's something you can edit in Power BI Desktop. But similar to bookmarks, it's one of those features that's very rich and powerful, but also very difficult to visualize or to understand once you've done it, right? So we're providing a very neat, I hope, visualization here, which you can toggle on and off using the show interaction checkbox. So you can see once that's enabled, we get some additional overlays on each individual visual. And if you hover over that, you can actually see how this particular visual happens to be interacting with other visuals. So we've got inbound interactions. That means this visual is being filtered or cross-highlighted from other visuals. And then we've got outbound interactions. They're shown in blue, which means this visual happens to interact with others. And as you can see, very intuitive and hopefully, a great help compared to the lack of, any of those features in Power BI Desktop. There's probably more which can be done around interactions in terms of sort of listing them and showing the actual definitions, but would be useful to get some feedback in terms of what folks would like to see and or even some ideas in terms of what might be useful. But definitely wanted to show that, and yeah, let us know. If there's more we can do. All right. So that's all I have as far as the report inspector is concerned. Very keen to move on to the next big feature, which is the report comparer. That's actually very unique, and this is something I'm super keen to show. But are there any remaining questions on inspector before I switch?
Oh, not right now. The only other question that there was about Ernesto, who asked if the tool is designed to just open the .pbit files or also the PBIX and PBP, and
yes, good. Yeah,
we already have it.
Good question. So you can open PBIX, PBIT, and report.json. Report.json happens to be the one you get from PBIP once you navigate into the report subfolder. So yeah, all three of those are supported. I think at some point will allow you to directly open your PBIP file. That's currently not supported, but it's on the backlog. Okay, right. So now we've basically seen what there is in terms of inspector and exploring what's in a given report. Let's move on to the second feature, the report comparer. So when I sort of set the stage initially, I already talked about the inability right now to be able to track changes between versions. This is where this feature comes in. So if I go here and make a very trivial change, for instance, if I just give this one a background color. Here we go, just so we can see something. And then let me save that and call this one sales 2. What I can do is I can click here and open sales, the original one. And I can go here and open sales 2, the one I just saved with my modifications. And now I'm going to get a side-by-side view, both of the wireframe, as well as my various pages, and the this particular tree view down here. And by default, that tree view is restricted to only to show only differences between the two reports. I mean, which is hopefully intuitive. So we can see on the sales page on this particular visual, we happen to have a new background property set with the color ID 2 and 60% transparency. And hopefully this is extremely intuitive for everyone, because it basically shows the original version did not have a background property, whereas the new one does, and it happens to have this particular setting. So in a nutshell, that's what we're getting here. And as you can see, we have the same interactivity in that by me selecting this visual header, we actually get this, maybe it wasn't obvious before, but we actually get this selected here. So we have a visual indication where on the report page we're actually looking right now. So that's that. Now, in what I did in order to get here is not really a good practice, right? So we briefly talked about CI/CD earlier. You know, in a professional context, you don't actually want to save multiple versions in different files. In a professional context, you will want to use source control here. And PBI Explorer has support for change tracking with source control as well. So if I go back to the PBIP folder I extracted earlier, and actually enable this for Git. There we go. So I can just go in here and basically commit the version I saved. And if I then go back in here and save this as PBIP again, just like I did before, and basically override the PBIP folder I extracted previously. Here we go. I'm now going to see that I've got some changes as far as my Git repo is concerned. And specifically, I've got a change on line 138 in my report.json file. Now, this is exactly where the complication of PBIP comes in. You know, you'd have to be pretty advanced to actually be able to understand exactly what's changed here, right? But PBI Explorer to the rescue. If I go in here and say, please open the report.json, the one that's under source control, PBI Explorer automatically detects that this folder happens to be in source control, and it basically allows me to select any previous commit from my Git history to compare against. So if I select this one, what I'm getting now is that on the left-hand side, I've got the initial commit I just put into my repo, and on the right-hand side, I've got the uncommitted version that's in my folder currently. And as we would expect, this one actually shows us exactly the same thing, which is the background color was set on this particular visual when previously there was no background color. So it's exactly the same. And that will also work when we have a more when we have more history in place. So if I actually commit this and say set background color, here we go. And if I then go in and make another change, let me actually, because that's also something which is retained as a report metadata. I'm just going to change my selected page. So if I now go and save that one back to where we were, here we go. Again, I'm getting a report.json with some changes. In this case, it's on line 2. And if I then go back to PBI Explorer and do the same thing as before, open report.json, I now get to choose between my initial commit and the one I just made. So if I only compare to the last one, I'm going to see there's only one change here, which is active page index was 0 and is now 1. And if I take this one and compare it to the init version, then I'm going to get 2 changes. One is the page index has changed, and the second one is, as expected, we've got the background color now. So hopefully this is cool and useful, and from my point of view, definitely very unique in terms of tooling to track changes. Obviously, I've only shown 2 really trivial examples here, but the same thing applies to filter settings and everything else. Even if you change a visual type, you're going to see that as a change. If you change something from a bar chart to a column chart or so. Any questions related to this?
No, not this topic. Andrea was asking, maybe it's obvious, but I'd like to know if PBI Explorer works just with files that have import data or also with files that have direct query data.
It works with either. So it works with so-called thick and thin reports. So thick reports are the ones that have a data model as part of the project. Thin reports have a reference to an external data set. And then whether you use import or direct query or direct lake doesn't matter at all. Because again, the purpose and the scope of the tool is report definitions. And that's always going to be the same, no matter no matter what the data model actually looks like. So hopefully that makes sense. Cool. So let me show you the final feature. In fact, just going back here as a reminder, this is the initial screen. So once you've downloaded the tool and once you launched it, this is what you're being presented with. And the third feature I haven't shown yet is Analyze Report. Anyone who's familiar with Tabular Editor and the best practice analyzer will recognize this, because this is sorry, I think I've got it. Here we go. Because this is basically replicating the Tabular Editor best practice analyzer feature, but here we do this for reports. So I've got this one, AdventureWorks Sales, set up here, and this is one of our most recent features. We've only launched that a month ago or so, and we basically give you a report that shows the outcome of some best practice rules being run against the report I just opened. This is very much work in progress as far as the rule definitions are concerned. So we've got the capability in the tool, but we will have to do a lot more work, hopefully with the community, to define a really useful standard rule set that works, for most cases, and actually helps in terms of detecting particular bad practices. But as a starting point, we've got, I think, a dozen or so rules in place. So as an example, number of pages per report. that's showing up here as a warning, or another one would be where we don't use theme colors, right? So just to demonstrate what that means, page 11, D069. So if we go and open up this particular report, page 11, here, that one. So we have a bar chart here, and we can see that this particular chart has the data point fill property. So that's pretty much the that defines the color for each data point, set to a particular hex value rather than a theme color index, right? So, and obviously that would break theming because that's a fixed literal value. So hopefully that gives a few examples and ideas of what kind of checks we've got in place here. Here's another one. Area charts should have legend at the bottom center. Top N filtered visuals should be limited. So I'm gonna leave that here in terms of this particular feature, because there's a lot more coming on this. Again, as I said, in terms of having a proper fully fledged library in place, we are planning to maintain a best practice rule library on GitHub with community engagement and community contributions, hopefully. Any questions on this one?
There don't seem to be any questions. Ernest is saying that he played around with the best practice analyzer.
Okay, fantastic. Cool. So yeah, stay tuned. There's more coming here. And also, as an FYI, right now, so basically, once you download the zip file that's on the website, you pretty much get a folder that looks like this. So we've got PBI Explorer.exe in here, but specifically, we also have this JSON file, and it's called BPA rules.json. So that comes embedded with the application, and this is actually where those BPA rules are defined. Again, if you know BPA from Tabular Editor, you will recognize that it's using the exact same syntax, because obviously it's coming from the same people. And I'm showing that because it means that you can already customize those rules today. We don't have much documentation out there yet. And particularly when it comes to those expressions, right now you'd have to do sort of some guesswork, and we definitely understand that we'll have to provide some guided examples here. But I just wanted to point out, anyone who's really keen can basically take a look at the rules file as it is, and you can even begin to customize it if you want to. You just have to make sure that the file you've customized lives in the exact same folder where your application is. All right. Yeah, so that's what I have in terms of demo. So take a note of those 3 links if you like. The GitHub link at the bottom, that's where we maintain our, that's what we use for feedback. So if you find bugs or if you have any suggestions, please go to GitHub, Tabular Tools /PBI Explorer, and raise any of those bug reports or requests as issues. There's also a blog post on tabulartools.com where you get sort of a written article showing what I've just shown. And just wanted to briefly explain who Tabular Tools is. I should probably have done this a bit sooner. It's a collaboration between SQL BI. So given that this is an Italian group, I'm sure you know them, and Tabular Editor from Denmark, and myself, PBI Tools. So what we have in common is a massive passion when it comes to good developer tooling around Power BI. Obviously, everything that SQL BI and Tabular Editor have done previously is widely known and widely used. And so this is sort of the same spirit where PBI Explorer is coming from. I've got this, which is just a screenshot from the website. I've done the demo already. Just wanted to point out a few things that are currently in the making and in our backlog. I already mentioned bookmark support. That's going to be huge, both in terms of effort on the development side, but also in terms of impact, hopefully. And then we'll have support for report level measures, resources, so basically embedded images, visual calculations, which is a brand new feature that has been talked about, and there's some reference to it on the Power BI website, but it hasn't been released to the public yet. So that's going to be a very exciting one. But also support for the model in thick reports as well as custom visuals. So just to give you an idea of what's coming, but again, the immediate really big ones are support for bookmarks as well as a more substantial library of BPA rules. Okay, so any more questions at this point?
Not from the chat, but well, I will make a comment. Then if everybody else wants to chip in, feel free. I think this is really interesting, of course. It's probably one of the biggest revolutions in the Power BI world that we've had in a while, because all these other changes that we are seeing, I think they are substantial, but we never had this level of abilities on the report side. This is something that was always, we literally had nothing. You couldn't do anything besides drag and drop things, search in look. You know, if you modified a report, you had to look at each visual one by one, see what you had modified, and so on. So it was really the less developed part of all Power BI. So from that point of view, I think it's really, really interesting. And I'm wondering if maybe besides the roadmap that you just showed us, what do you have in mind for the tool for the future? Like, okay, bookmark support and so on, but I don't know. Do you have any other inputs that you can give us? Any other ideas that?
Well, I can actually see a question which is sort of related to what I'm about to say. We're eagerly awaiting right now for Microsoft to officially support external edits to PBIP. Basically, now that Microsoft has given us the JSON definition of what's inside the PBIX, including the report file, the next logical thing will be, that external tools will want to make edits and modifications and possibly even generate, some of the definitions in there. And that's definitely something which we're very interested in and where we're going to invest a lot moving forward. Or anything else on your mind? I did very well actually in staying on time, getting better
absolutely.
at that one. Had a bad habit of always overrunning previously, but yeah, hopefully that was useful, and most importantly, hopefully more people, got inspired to actually go and download the tool. Just be aware that the version I just showed, particularly with the need filter support, is not released yet, but that hopefully will happen tomorrow. Although since we discovered a regression regarding icons, we'll have to have a look at that as well. But yeah, should definitely happen before the end of the week. And just look out for announcements on LinkedIn also.
I'm sure we will. We definitely will. I think this will not be the only meeting that we will have about Power BI Explorer. I'm sure we have seen the evolution that there was by Tabular Tools on the Tabular Editor product from 2 to the paid version, the 3 version that we now have. So we are looking forward definitely to see also PBI Explorer grow in the same way, I think. So yeah, let's leave this point for the future. Let's meet again and see maybe in a few months where we are at, and also related to what the Power BI team will push on the PBIP format and so on. So if there are no other questions from the community, there is a comment by Simone who is saying great job and thank you for the presentation. So you can see it was appreciated, of course. And I will just remind the people in the call of our next meeting. For the Italian guests, I think we are all Italians here, but anyway, for the Italian guests, we have a roundtable next week on CI/CD abilities, Git integration, and so on. As I said, I will present what I did in the company, but everyone is invited to join, chip in with their experiences and comments. And then we will meet again in 2024 with a couple events that will also be open to the English speaking audiences. That's it, I will say. So thanks Mathias again for your time. And if there is no other comments, I will go back to work because I'm still working hours. So
thanks for the invitation and for some great questions. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks again. Thanks everyone, and see you for our next meetings. Bye.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you.